Until the early 2030s, it's going to be base metals prices are going to collapse. The demand won't be there. The financing will be difficult. But it's when you get into the early 2030s where inflation is worked out. Growth rates, as I said before, go back to the trend growth rates that have existed since 1900. And that's when the commodity markets and base metals have their golden age.
Simon Hunt is the founder of Simon Hunt Strategic Services, a platform that provides regular reports on the evolving global economy and how these changes will impact commodities such as copper. Simon has decades of experience in consultancy services on burning issues like geopolitics, China, the commodities industry, and the global economy at large. Simon is predicting a gloomy decade for the United States and overall global economy, starting with a minor U.S. recession by the end of the year. He predicts that the U.S. economy will soon go into a mild recession if it's not already in one. According to Simon, this recession will cause a significant sell-off in equities and force the Federal Reserve and other central banks to resume quantitative easing and cut interest rates. But this recovery phase will not last long, Simon adds. Instead, he believes it will cause another wave of inflation, a stronger wave, followed by a stronger, longer period of recession that could quickly turn into a global depression. Before this second wave of widespread economic decline, Simon is predicting a 100% increase in the price of base metals like copper and a 76% increase in crude oil prices. He also believes stock prices will increase rapidly, all encouraged by central banks resuming QE. However, he warns to avoid getting caught on the dance floor when the music stops. According to the popular analyst and consultant on geopolitical issues, global inflation will increase to around 15% due to the actions of central banks, which will cause an even bigger decline when they start tightening again, and everything will be kicked off with a minor recession in the United States. Simon believes this recession will begin before the end of 2023, if it has not started already. He points out that there are already visible cracks in the employment sector, a sector that previously remained strong despite the fastest pace of rate hikes in U.S. history. Recent data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, reveal U.S. firms invited applications for lower job openings in July. Fresh reports in the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, JOLTS, reveals the number of job openings on the last business day of July stood at 8.82 million, down from 9.165 million in June, and the market's expectation of 9.465 million openings for July. Gold and silver prices rallied sharply on the news. Silver rose by over 2% in hours, while gold increased by 1.2%. We will now bring you clips from Simon's recent interview with WT Finance. Please watch, share, and like this video. Also, ensure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications bell for more videos on gold, silver, and other metals. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
I think it's inevitable that the US is going into recession. In fact, is probably already in recession. People look at the employment data without realizing, excuse me, the vast revisions that have taken place in the employment data. And if you look at the hours worked also, they're falling. You're beginning to see cracks in the employment situation. There's a report out the other day showing that job openings dropped to a 2-year low as number of hires and quits plunge. So it's going to take a catalyst for the market to appreciate reality, but it's coming. Whether it's coming from problems in the US Treasury markets, or whether it's coming from an external event, which could be any number of developments. For instance, Putin, rather like a heavyweight boxer, has absorbed a large number of punches, and he's probably going to lash out somewhere at some time. How, we don't know, but forget about nuclear war. That's just nonsense. doesn't need nuclear war, has got hypersonic missiles. Or you can see issues in the Straits of Hormuz, propelled by America trying to show that it's still got lots of weight and power to influence developments. And I think this is a real wild card. There are all sorts of reports emanating out of the US Transport Securitization Association that a new lockdown in America is arriving. It'll start with masks being compulsory for key people like medicals, aircraft personnel, and whether it slowly moves into a complete lockdown or rapidly and into a complete lockdown, I'm not yet sure. I'm just waiting for more information. So all I'm saying is that there will be some catalyst which will wake the market up out of its complacency. And when the markets start falling, which they will continue to decline, we've got a fall in the S&P of about 30% by the end of the year, stroke early next year. And once that happens, then the complacency of companies will flitter away. Hours worked, falling hours worked will be replaced by falling employment. And of course, that then has a knock-on impact.
Simon predicts that the outcome of all these economic turbulence will be a sustained period of weak manufacturing activities, tighter lending standards, and inevitable recession for the United States. This recession, he adds, will encourage central banks to go full blast on opening credit taps to rescue the markets. But the more money they print, the deeper the global economy sinks into the death spiral. Simon is also predicting a second wave of inflation. He reminds us that second waves are always much more severe than first waves, but central banks made it all inevitable when they unleashed trillions of dollars on the global economy within a few short years. Simon believes all of that money has to be properly washed away from the system, and that will only happen with a double-digit global inflation coming up between late 2024 and early 2025. Let's get to the interview as Simon drops more predictions, including the beginning of a commodity supercycle.
What then is the outcome? The outcome is a very simple outcome, which is that long-term rates over which central banks have limited control will soar. 10-year treasuries will yield between 10 and 13%. And what does that do to a world that is indebted to the extent of 3.5 times global GDP? You have a big collapse. They've run hot, and that hasn't worked. We just have major collapse. Many countries are already in civil unrest. That will get even worse when economic and financial conditions deteriorate. You could even say that in some countries you'll have civil war. And the probability is that's too strong a word, the possibility is that you will have a war between countries in the G7 against countries in the BRICS, i.e. the war between NATO and Russia will expand.
You talk about minor recession in the next 6 months or so, followed by a more severe recession sort of at the end of 2024, start of 2025.
Yeah, but interrupted by a huge inflation-driven recovery. The last hurrah, one might describe it as. You can see what's going to happen in manufacturing, for example. Instead of destocking, they restock, and they add even more, hedge against a falling dollar, against rising commodity prices, and inflation. And households will be doing the same. The investment community will do the same. So you'll see oil well over 150. and base metals at least double current prices. Equities will soar after falling sharply by the end of the year. S&P will probably double, but you have to be careful not to be the last guy on the dance floor when the music stops.
So what happens afterwards? So after this,
I think probably one of the most fraught in modern history. Economically, the world will either be in deep recession or depression. Politically, you will have internal strife within countries and externally between countries, social instability. I think it's a period that's going to last until the early 2030s. And then common sense starts prevailing. The Davos crowd, led by Klaus Schmidt, depose. Their influence will be stamped out. Common sense will prevail. Wokeness will disappear. Rule of law will become the foundations of the new society. So it's going to be an extremely difficult period, but you come out of it, and that's when the world reverts to its growth rates, trend growth rates that has existed since 1900 of 4% a year. And that's when the metals industry goes into its golden age.
Speaking further about this commodity golden age, Simon predicts that by early 2030s, gold, silver, and other commodities will no longer be denominated in US dollars. It will be denominated in the preferred currency of the BRICS alliance, which Simon predicts by then will be covering many of the countries producing the principal base metals like copper, and they won't be selling their outputs for dollars. By 2030, according to Simon's estimates, many other assets will no longer be priced in dollars. They will be priced in either a common gold-backed currency or the native fiat currencies of the next crop of global superpowers. What do you think about Simon's predictions of an impending recession, second wave of inflation, and a commodity golden age? Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos. Thanks for watching.